Hi, continuation of the last video that I did. I'm going to do a couple more fallacies in this video. I'll leave a link in the description. We've got here the number 3, appeal to ignorance, argumentum ad ignorantium. Anytime ignorance is used as a major premise in support of an argument, it's liable to be a fallacious appeal to ignorance. Naturally, we are all ignorant of many things, but it is cheap and manipulative to allow this unfortunate aspect of the human condition to do most of our heavy lifting in an argument. Interestingly, this fallacy is often used to bolster multiple contradictory conclusions at once. Consider the following 2 claims. No one has ever been able to prove definitively that extraterrestrials exist, so they must not be real. No one has ever been able to prove definitively that extraterrestrials do not exist, so they must be real. If the same argument strategy can support mutually exclusive claims, then it's not a good argument strategy. Ignorance isn't proof of anything, except that one doesn't know something. If no one has proven the non-existence of ghosts or flying saucers, that's hardly proof that those things either exist or don't exist. If we don't know whether they exist, then we don't know that they do exist or that they don't exist. Ignorance doesn't prove any claim to knowledge. Your turn. Consider the following examples. Can you spot the appeal to ignorance? Example 1. We have no evidence that the Illuminati ever existed. They must have been so clever they destroyed all the evidence. Example 2. I know nothing about Tank Johnson. I don't, because I don't know. I've never heard of him. Except that he has a criminal record as long as your leg. Well, isn't it saying usually he's got a criminal record as long as your arm? Usually. But I'll bet he's really just misunderstood. And see if you can figure out which one's the appeal to ignorance. The video, you can go and watch this video later if you like. I'll leave a link. False dilemma, false dichotomy. This fallacy has a few other names: black and white fallacy, either or fallacy, false dichotomy, and bifurcation fallacy. This line of reasoning fails by limiting the options to 2, when there are in fact more options to choose from. Sometimes the choices are between one thing, the other thing, or both things together. They don't exclude each other. Sometimes there are a whole range of options, 3, 4, 5, or 145. However, it may happen the false dichotomy fallacy errs by oversimplifying the range of options. Dilemma-based arguments are only fallacious when in fact there are more than the stated options. It's not a fallacy, however, if there really are only 2 options. For example, either Led Zeppelin is the greatest band of all time, or they are not. That's a true dilemma, since there really are only 2 options there, A or non-A. It would be fallacious, however, to say there are only 2 kinds of people in the world: people who love Led Zeppelin and people who hate music. Some people are indifferent about that music. Some sort of like it or sort of dislike it, but don't have strong feelings either way. The false dilemma fallacy is often a manipulative tool designed to polarize the audience, hierarchizing one side and demonizing the other. It's common in political discourse as a way of strong-arming the public into supporting controversial legislation or policies. Now it's your turn. See if you can identify a third option these politicians fail to mention. Either we go to war or we appear weak. Either you love me or you hate me. The video there again. Like I said, I'll leave a link. I'll put one more in here, the slippery slope. You may have used this fallacy on your parents as a teenager, but you have to let me go to the party. If I don't go to the party, I'll be a loser with no friends. Next thing you know, I'll end up alone and jobless living in your basement when I'm 30. The slippery slope fallacy works by moving from a seemingly benign premise or starting point and working through a number of small steps to an improbable extreme. This fallacy is not just a long series of causes. Some casual chains are perfectly reasonable. There could be a complicated series of causes, which are all related, and we have good reason for expecting the first cause to generate the last outcome. The slippery slope fallacy, however, suggests that unlikely or ridiculous outcomes are likely when there's just not enough evidence to think so. Certain ad campaigns from Dodge, Taco Bell, and notably in a recent one for DirecTV commit this fallacy to great comic effect. It's hard enough to prove one thing is happening or has happened. It's even harder to prove a whole series of events will happen. That's a claim about the future, and we haven't arrived there yet. We generally don't know the future with that kind of certainty. The slippery slope fallacy slides right over that difficulty by assuming that chain of future events without really proving their likelihood. Your turn. Which of these examples do you think the slippery slope fallacy and which is not? Your coach's policy is that no one can be a starter on game day if they miss practice. So if you miss basketball practice today, you won't be a starter in Friday's game. Then you won't be the first freshman to start on the varsity basketball team at our school. Or is it example 2? If America doesn't send weapons to the Syrian rebels, they won't be able to defend themselves against their warring dictator. They'll lose their civil war, and that dictator will oppress them. And the Soviets will consequently carve out a sphere of influence that spreads across the entire Middle East. Well, the top one isn't. Yeah? Because it says your coach's policy is that no one can be a starter on game day. Well, obviously that's the policy of the football coach or the soccer coach, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, coach of the sport that they're playing. So the policy is that if you won't start the game if you miss practice, right? So if you miss this one's about basketball, but if you miss basketball practice, you won't be a starter in Friday's game, which is obviously what the policy is, yeah? Then you won't be the first freshman to start on the varsity basketball team at our school. Well, you won't be, will you? Because that you can prove all that's provable, that's there. But with this one, it's not. Yeah? I don't agree with this. I don't agree with war and all that. I mean, cause no loss or harm to any man, woman or child, common law, you know what I mean? Stick by that, you know what I mean? So war is wrong anyway, it's killing, it's wrong. Shouldn't cause no harm to anyone. But this is the one here, what they call it. Because they don't know that if America doesn't send weapons to the Syrian rebels, they won't be able to defend themselves against a warring dictator. We could change that to any country. We could change that to bloody America. We could change that to England. We could change that to Scotland. We could change it to any country. You know what I mean? But they don't know that they won't be able to defend themselves if they don't send weapons to them. They could still be able to defend themselves. It says they'll lose their civil war and that dictator will oppress them. They don't know that. They can't prove that. And the Soviets will constantly carve out a sphere of influence that spreads across the entire Middle East. They can't prove that either. So that's your example. That's the correct one there. There's another thing there. I'm going to make another video in a minute with circular argument and a couple more. Okay, thank you.